Buonasera a tutti, benvenuti al terzo round della stagione all'Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Welcome, everybody. Good evening to Sim Racers Edge Round 3 at Monza. There's your rough translation of what I said at the start. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. With me tonight, another new name. We had a new name and a new voice in the booth on Monday night. Tonight, we have more of the same. James Whitehouse making his debut on ESPN here tonight. James, welcome.
Good evening, Frank. Thank you for having me. And might I say, some impressive Italian at the top there. Very nice.
Thank you very much. That's what 2 years in high school and I think maybe a year and a half in community college gets you. So,
Well, great work, pal. Got to roll those R's and do that Italian hand gesture, and you're all in.
I got enough of the hand gesture going. That's for certain. So we are just getting into qualifying here for the third round of this season here at, again, Monza, our first road course of the season. A couple of new names coming in, like the one we see on screen right now, Scott Ramler, one of the road course ringers. And big news tonight out of another one of the road course ringers, the man who won all of the road courses on last year's schedule, the man you see on screen right now, Nate Siefker, going to be starting for pit road with a penalty here tonight.
Oof. Yeah, heavy business. Well, I mean, I must admit that I'm glad to be doing my first one at a road course. Road courses are very much my speciality, and I absolutely love Monza. Just as with oval tracks, the draft is going to play a big part tonight, I would guess, especially because we're not using the first chicane as is traditional with Monza.
Yep, that is one of the major notes as you see going through the front straightaway right now. You're completely missing the first chicane, and your corner one here is the Curva Grande here at the essentially the heel of the foot here at Monza. As we go through again, I had mentioned Nate Siefker getting a penalty for, I believe it was impeding a driver on pit road last week at Kentucky. With that, he will be forced to start from the pit lane here tonight. And on a road course, especially an oval, that might hurt you, but on a road course, that's certainly a crippling blow.
Yeah, 100%. Overtaking here is going to be a lot more about the brakes than it is about just getting a draft. Obviously, a draft is going to help, but now that we're turning right as well, I think that there's a lot more to play for under braking.
There certainly will be, as a little bit of a different feel for tonight's race, a little bit of a different format for tonight's race with the iRacing update that came out yesterday. They have now added the ability for, if you are a NASCAR fan, you would know it by the term of happy hour, which is the practice session between qualifying and the race. There is a warm-up session, a 5-minute warm-up session after this qualifying session. So these guys have had their practice. They're out on track doing open qualifying for 10 minutes right now. Then they get another 5 minutes to warm up here before the race begins, and we really put on a show here tonight.
Absolutely, I must say I'm glad to see it's open qualifying as well. I know a lot of iRacing qualifying happens over 2 laps on your own, but I think that at a track like Monza, having an open qualifying really spices things up because you do see people backing up, trying to get a toe off each other because the toe is so significant around here.
It certainly is, and you're looking right now at Scott Ramler, one of the newcomers here to this series, a name that we have seen before here on ESPN, one of the road course ringers here, and you see the times down there on the bottom. Green times are personal bests, purple times are session bests, and yellow is slower than your personal best as Ramler goes through the final corner here, Parabolica. Currently sitting just over a half a second off of Nate Siefker, and that's odd because Ramler was the quickest car out of the practice session.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. In the practice session, he finished on a high 123, didn't he? So they've got a little bit of time to find if they're going to start reaching those times.
Certainly do. And tonight is another we get another run as we look at Darren Ganji. We've only seen this one other time, and that was at Watkins Glen to end season 1, is the tire compounds. We are more prepared this time than we were last time. We know for a fact now that you do not have to use both tire compounds. So pretty much it's fair game, whatever tire you want to run all race long. The red-walled soft tire only lasting about a handful of laps here, that would tend to lean more towards a hard tire race for these guys.
Yeah, I'm seeing quite a lot of drivers out on the hard tire, as I can see it on my timing software. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but do they have to start the race on the tire that they use in qualifying?
No, there is no You don't. No, you can. It's free choice for
right. Okay.
For that.
Cool. Excellent.
As we're looking at Jeffrey Roulette right now, currently holding the 5th best time, just set the best first sector on this lap.
Yeah, he's got traffic just in front of him, so I reckon he's definitely benefited from a tow there to set that fastest first sector. Let's see what he gets as he comes across the line.
It's up to P6 for
P6, so with a 126.28.
And then Tony Phillips jumps him into P6. He was getting that tow off of our second place finisher last week, Bentley Glazer at Kentucky. Nate Seifker on track. And speaking of last week at Kentucky, here's the winner of that race, Rick Ravon, driver of the number 5. And Ravon out in front of a group, only putting down the 10th best time, which out of the 24 drivers that are here tonight, slowest of the lot, now 11th, as I believe Mike Randy just put in a time.
Is there a reason that we're only seeing 11 drivers out on track?
I think that's just how many are out there right
okay.
now. I know we're seeing, here's Chris Simard about to set his first lap, or trying to set his first lap in that number 77.
Yes, I see. Okay.
Coming out of Ascari down that long back straightaway, a wide line out of Parabolica. I think he might try to cut it into pit road here. Yes, he don't. Nope. Trying to get the toe off the driver in front of him.
Yeah, that toe is so crucial around here. Coming back to Nate Seifker getting a penalty for impeding in the pit lane last round. I'll tell you what, man, that is such a big penalty for such a small thing. But it just goes to show that you've got to keep it clean everywhere you go.
It certainly does. And Nate did not have the best of races last week at Kentucky. Was up towards the front, got caught up in an accident. Wasn't necessarily of his own doing, set him back a little bit. And Nate not bettering his personal best on that lap. Still the pole sitter by a good 0.2 of a second over Scott Ramler. Butch Davis in the number 43 also sitting right there in third position. Here's a guy who could certainly have a good run here. He is a big oval guy. He has some success on the road courses here, but this is one of those road courses where there's really only 2 turns to watch out for. It's this chicane that he's going through now and Ascari. That's about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I must say, it's the chicanes that make this track so good. Ascari, for me personally, is one of the best pieces of racetrack in the world. When you get it hooked up and you're right on the edge, absolutely magnificent.
We're riding on board with Butch Davis here as we only have a minute left in this qualifying session. My, how the time just flies in these qualifying sessions as Butch going through the aforementioned Variante Ascari.
Every time I go through here, I'm reminded of qualifying from the F1 back in 2011, I think it was. There's an amazing slow-mo shot somewhere of Sebastian Vettel completely sideways going through Ascari and still putting it on pole position. And as a massive Sebastian Vettel fan, that makes me feel, it warms my heart after what's been a tough couple of seasons, if I'm honest.
It certainly has, enough to make him completely lose his hair over the move to Alfa Romeo. I thought when I saw that picture, I thought it was a Photoshop picture.
Yeah, I was confident that was a Photoshop because it came up in the memes channel on my Discord, and I was like, that's Photoshop. That has to be. But no, it's real.
Sorry to cut you off there. Qualifying incident as Jeff Hollingsworth and Nate Siefker get into it going into one of the chicanes.
Right, I'm going to go back and have a little look at that.
I believe that's
three of them.
I believe that's the Della Roggia, no? Or no, that's
Yes,
the
that's correct.
That is the Della Roggia.
Oh, he's just braked a little bit too late and punted your man. That's terrible behavior. There's no need for any of that in qualifying.
No, especially not in qualifying. As here's Rayvon, who was a part of that little battle. Coming through, Scott Ramler about to cross the line to complete his final lap. You see the drivers who are still out on track right now. There is Ramler crossing the line. He puts in a time that's just 3/100ths of a second off of the pole time.
I suppose it does. I suppose all of that doesn't necessarily matter that much, does it? Because Nate Siefker is taking a penalty.
That is true.
So Scott Ramler is on net pole position.
Yes, he is. That's a very good point.
Not fast enough for pole, but still good enough.
Absolutely. Is Kevin O'Brien, the birthday boy, coming around Parabolica now. Looks like he might. No, there we go. Cuts it down as low as he can go. Ronnie Osmer trailing behind him. O'Brien to 16th, Osmer to 6th. And that is how we end this qualifying session. So
I'm ready for the race to start now. I don't want to wait 5 minutes. I want the race to start now.
Yeah, I don't blame you. This is very unusual to me because usually we have that 5 minutes of filler during practice before the race kicks off, before qualifying kicks off, and now I'm about in race mode as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we watch Scott Ramler now just coming across, and the session now officially over. And with that, while we have the time here on these on this 5-minute warm-up session, let's just have a quick look at the standings here going into tonight's race. Just after 2 races, as Rick Rayvon now currently holds an 11-point lead in the point standings over Nate Siefker. Rayvon getting a 2nd place and a win in the first 2 races this season. Bentley Glazer, with his 2nd place finish, moves into 3rd position in the standings. Chris Simard there as well in P4. Jeffrey Roulette in 5th. Carl Burke, Ron Hollifield, Timothy Bates, Brett Beasley, and Charles Woods round out the top 10. And in early season, this is a time where you certainly want to try to make up every single point that you possibly can. We know in the midfield it's going to be a close battle all throughout the season, but it's that battle at the top where you can really create some separation for yourself going into the latter stages of the season.
You're absolutely right. Putting together a championship is about being consistent across the whole series and not trying to play catch up at the end. So if you have a tough start, it's very difficult to come back.
It certainly is. As we're going now, here are the team standings coming into tonight. V-Speed with its only competitor, Chris Simard, currently now holding the championship lead in the team standings. VSM, FBR, OGR, RDR, Voodoo Racing, and Jawbone Motorsports. The 7 different teams here in this series, and that is how they line up in the point standings. Just 10 points separating 1st and 4th. And again, those point standings are rounded either up or down. Those are a decimal point system, and with SDK, unfortunately, we cannot put a decimal in. So as we are, already halfway through this warm-up session here, let's take a minute and just forget about the race here for a second. James, new to the series, why don't you let the folks at home know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, my background predominantly is in road racing. My only experience of ovals is occasionally on a Monday night I'll get some mates together and just go and have a mess around in the oval series races just for the banter. Really, always great fun. From that perspective, I'm a massive fan of oval racing because it's great fun and. It doesn't necessarily have the best impression in this part of the world. I think everyone goes, "Oh, but it's just turning left," but it's really so much more than that, and it's good fun racing. Um, I suppose the big headline about me is that I run a sim racing centre in the northwest of England. My business is called Century Sim Racing. Check us out, centurysim.co.uk. If you don't mind me doing myself a little punt, but yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's certainly nice to have you here, as we certainly hope that you're around here a lot more often. We could use all the help we can get right now because it's been really since oh God, Thanksgiving. I think it's pretty much just been me and Sam. Now we've had other fillers come in
Hmm.
over the course of these last couple of weeks, but it's been an interesting ride here these last couple of months, to say the least.
Yeah, it sounds it. Well, I mean, like I said, it's a pleasure to be here. I've been wanting to get into the commentary game for a while, sort of stepping over from the driver's side. So this is an exciting opportunity for me.
Yeah, and we are certainly glad to give you this opportunity. For myself, I work in broadcasting, and this for me just completely went by happenstance. I was actually in a league that was being broadcasted by ESPN. I didn't know that there was a broadcast or a thing where you could broadcast iRacing races, and quickly jumped out of the league and into the booth. So kind of happenstance for me as well.
Yeah, the commentary is a bit of a happenstance thing for me as well. To be fair, during the first lockdown, the first thing that happened was all of my members at Century Sim wanted to do some racing, so created a Discord, put on a DTM series. I ran it in Assetto Corsa actually, and got a friend in to sort of help me with the broadcast and everything. And I raced and commentated at the same time for the first half of the series, which was entertaining right up until we got to the Mount Panorama circuit in Bathurst and went, I can't race and commentate on this. It's too much. I'm not racing properly because I'm trying to commentate, and I'm not commentating properly because I'm racing. So I jumped out of the car and into the booth and actually had a lot more fun. The pressure was a lot more off as well because I wasn't worrying about being so prepared and the setup and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm very glad for this opportunity. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you're a lot more confident than I am, because there is no way in heck I would have even attempted that to try to both race and broadcast at the same time.
Look, mate,
But
the James Whitehouse guarantee is that I will style it out no matter what. It'll be great.
so we're about to style out round 3. Hopefully, there will be a competition caution on lap 11. By the way, we were planning on having a manual pace car here tonight. However, that is not going to be the case. We are going to have the competition caution on lap 11 instead. With that, though, we will go now to the grid here for tonight's race. Nate Siefker and Scott Ramler are the official first row. Again, Siefker starting from pit lane with a penalty from last week. Butch Davis and Rick Ravon will make up row 2. Row 3 will be Darren Ganji and Ronnie Osmer. Bentley Glazer and Tony Phillips make up row 4. Row 5 goes to Jeffrey Roulette and Chris Simard. Row 6 to Jeff Hollingsworth and Jeffrey Bogan. James.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I don't think I've actually. I'm trying to think if I've ever actually watched an IndyCar race before. I'm sure I must have done. But I'm very excited for the rolling start, because normally single seaters do grid start, so I'm excited to see how this goes. And of course, we're not going to have the massive crunch that you get at turn 1 at Monza traditionally, because turn 1 is Curva Grande. So hopefully that gives everyone a chance to find themselves somewhere on the track that's going to be good for them, and we don't see a massive crunch at turn 2.
Yeah, I was going to say the massive crunch will be pushed back to the Della Roggia instead of the Rettifilio this time.
Yeah, that's it.
So as the cars make their way around Parabolica, here for the start of tonight's race. Our first road race of the season, our first of many here for Sim Racers Edge. The pace car is off. We are green flag racing here at Monza for round 3 of season 2 for Sim Racers Edge.
Tell you what, there was a slow getaway for Rick Raven, nearly having someone into the back of him. All clean for now, though, as they head through Curva Grande for the first time.
Scott Ramler out in front of this race. Butch Davis coming up just to his right side, and this is the heavy braking zone going into the Della Roggia. And
really
up
done,
front,
well done. Sorry, go on, Frank.
No, you're fine. Very, as I'm sure you were about to say what I was going to, very well done, very respectful between the top 2 drivers, getting through completely and getting through fine.
Absolutely, it's worth considering as well that at this stage of the race, everyone's tires are cold, everyone's brakes are cold. It's a long drag down to turn 2 where they're not using the brakes at all. So to go side by side through the Della Roggia chicane is good work from those 2 drivers.
It certainly is. Now funneling through the Variante Ascari. Everyone single file. There's a car off in the back there. That's the 21 of Jeffrey Bogan that had a little bit of an off through Ascari.
Sorry, that's Butch Davis having a look up the inside going into the parabolic. It doesn't quite make it work, and it doesn't quite set him up nicely for the straight. He has Darren Ganji all over the back of him now. Is he going to be able to survive by sticking in the toe of Scott Ramler?
Yeah, we can see Rick Ravon right on board again. Don't have to worry about the first braking zone here. You just blow right on through that. Working lap 2 of 45 here tonight. Boy, Butch Davis really kept the pace going. He is right again to the left side of Ramler. Side by side is Ravon with Ganji as well. Ravon gets the spot, and a carbon copy of the first lap as Ramler and Davis side by side. Ramler keeps the position, though.
I tell you what, that was some superb racecraft from Scott Ramler there to hang on to that. I was sure that he was going to lose the lead.
Yeah, and then, I mean, just with how, and also with how bad of a run that Butch Davis had coming out of Parabolica, as you had mentioned. That was surprised that he was even that close. He should have been coming under fire from Ganji, not putting Ramler under fire.
Well, again, that just goes to show how powerful the toe is around here. Arguably being in the lead, if it's going to be this close, it's not really where you want to be. So in a lot of ways, it becomes like an oval race.
Certainly is. Again, that's the long straightaways here. The fastest circuit that Formula One goes to every single year is right here at Monza, made even faster with the elimination of that first chicane here for these guys.
That's right. So the gap between, the gap now is not very big at all. Sorry, my timing screen is having a bit of a wobble, but he's definitely going to get a good run here. Should be enough, probably to drag past. Goes to the inside this time, so that's going to put Scott Ramler in an interesting position going into the Della Roggia chicane. And it looks like he's pretty cleanly passed, but is Ramler going to have a lunge at the inside to save it? Yes, he is. Well done.
Yep, and he's going to keep it. A little bit of contact, a little bit of wiggling from Butch Davis in the 43 there. But other than that, everything all clean. They have gone side by side through the Della Roggia all 3 laps, and that is the biggest amount of, that's the most drama we've seen out of the front pair.
Tell you what, Scott Ramler has done well to get through there as cleanly as he did. He's pulled the gap out to over a second now, and typically in iRacing, you want to be within a second to really benefit from a toe. So that's going to put Butch Davis in an interesting position, heading down towards Curva Grande next lap, because he's got a big queue of guys behind him. So he's going to have to watch his tail pretty closely. That gap now 1.1 seconds in the lead.
It certainly is. Not a lot of battling going on here throughout the field, as you would expect on a road course, but these guys are all strung out pretty much all together with each other, at least as close as you can get. As you had mentioned, there's Ravon. Now he is going to be looking to put Butch Davis under fire. Davis just outside of that second distance that you had mentioned, not going to be getting much. However, Ravon doesn't appear to be towing up to the back of that 43.
Yeah, Darren Ganji is the one I'm looking at right now, because he's right on the bumper of Rick Ravon. Does he go to the inside or the outside? Ravon protects the inside, so he's going to have to make a choice here, Darren Ganji, because the time's coming if he's going to make a move.
That was
well done
really
from Rick Ravon.
close.
Yeah, he hogs the middle of the track there, heading into the braking zone, which kind of covers both.
That was Davis blowing the second half of the De La Roggia chicane. He's going to lose second and third, drop him down to fourth. Just barely does keep it in the top 5, keeping Ronnie Osmer behind him. And that was absolutely not what he wanted to see, as I think Timothy Bates might have had a little bit of an incident.
Yeah, once again, that lets Scott Ramler get away even more now. So he is so the gap out front still over a second. Rick Ravon is chasing him down, but Scott Ramler at the moment sitting pretty. I would say, not to put the commentator's curse on him. It's still early days yet, but it's a good start from him. We'll be very pleased.
It certainly is, and Ramler will keep an update also as well on the driver in the back of the field, currently running in the 13th position, Nate Siefker. Siefker had won all of the road course races last season en route to winning the first championship for Sim Racers Edge. He has moved his way up into the 30th position at a gap of about 10.5 seconds behind the race leader, as Johnny Antonucci has had a spin in Parabolica in the 13.
Tell you what, that is an excellent start from Nate Siefker, as you say. The fastest lap of the race of the 26.2. That takes a chunk out of the leaders. So, but it's a long race. So by the end of the race, he could very much be in play. Let's keep an eye out for that as the race goes on.
0.8 quicker than Scott Ramler's best lap, as you saw the incident there with Johnny Antonucci. That was a little bit of a bump to Antonucci from the 21 of Jeffrey Bogan. We're seeing Jeff Hollingsworth and Tony Phillips now fighting in the mid-pack. 7th, 8th, and 9th. This is Roulette, Hollingsworth, and Phillips as they head into the Variante Ascari.
Yeah, and we have got Nate Siefker approaching this group as well at a rate of knots.
Certainly is, as Paul Crumry and Chris Samard are the only two that separate him. And you can see right there in the back is Hollingsworth now really making a move to the outside of Parabolica, and that's a power move by Jeff Hollingsworth to get around Jeffrey Roulette on the outside of Parabolica.
Yeah, it's a brave place to make a move there, because that corner is so fast. So I'm impressed by that. That was a hell of a move, but he's got to defend now, because Jeffrey Roulette is going to have the drag heading down towards the De La Roggia chicane.
Nate Siefker has just made up 3 spots, pardon me, in the time it took to get out of Parabolica and into the Curva Grande. Nate Siefker is on a mission. He's going to get helped out a lot with the competition caution on lap 11, and there's one car off. That's Darren Ganji in the 51, who is running in 3rd.
I wonder what happened there. I'm going to go back and see if I can find out.
We're going to bring it here. He's battling here with Rick Ravon going into the De La Roggia. It's well alongside. Oh, just turned in a little too early, and Ravon. They both collide. I think Ravon's had an issue as well. This is coming through the Lesmos.
Nate Siefker now is up to 7th. His last lap was a 1:26.1, which is the fastest lap of the race, significantly quicker than all the leaders. He now is within 10 seconds of the race lead, which is some going. P2 is only 7 seconds up the road from him, so we are seeing a hell of a charge from this man.
We certainly are, and we're seeing one hell of a fallback from Rick Ravon. You just saw him hit the gravel trap coming out of the second Lesmo and nose it into the fence. So Ravon going to have to pit early here. Get a new front wing. I'm sure a fast repair as well to repair that left front suspension on that 5. And now Scott Ramler is left 2.5 seconds up the road from Ronnie Osmer.
There's contact. Sorry, contact for Nate Siefker. It looked like, who is that? Is that Chris Simard coming slowly through the De La Roggia chicane? That is definitely front wing damage for Nate Siefker. That is the danger with starting from the pit lane if you're going to be much faster than the field that you're making your way through.
And you can see it's the left front wing of Nate Siefker that has the issue. You can see it bowed up a little bit more than the right front wing is.
Yeah, that car is going to be feeling awful now as he heads through Ascari.
It's going to be unnecessary.
He's got to make sure he does a pretty clean rejoin though there, so that's fine. So yeah, Nate Siefker now is going to be feeling that. I guess he's going to when the pace car comes out on lap 11. Is he allowed to box?
Yes, they will all. Okay. I'm sure they will all be coming in.
Right. Do they have a fast repair or anything?
Yes, they do. They should, I believe.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So that shouldn't affect him too badly. So that stop is about 4 laps away now. So yeah, he's just got to keep his head down. The gap to the leader, 12.6 seconds.
And I believe with a front wing issue, which is all that he has, I don't believe, look at Kevin O'Brien getting one heck of a run, coming around the outside and then just gives it up going into the Della Roggia, as I believe that's Chris Simard who's had an off, and Siefker really has to put the brakes on.
Oof. Good awareness from him, though.
That's an interesting turn of events there through just one chicane.
That's what it's like in the mid-pack, though, isn't it? It's the Wild West out there. Especially if you're a lot faster than trying to get through the mid-pack. You've got to be watching your back on 2 fronts. I've got to keep the hammer down, absolutely keep the pace up as much as I can, but also be prepared to brake a little bit early. Be prepared for people to make mistakes around me. So it's that tightrope that he's walking right now. I guarantee he would be far more comfortable up at the front, fighting that with Scott Ramler.
And now he's fighting it out with Darren Ganji to try to maintain the 8th position, which he is not going to be able to do. Kevin O'Brien right behind him, the last car in the top 10. Not missing much up front. There you see the gap between the top 3 cars. Kevin O'Brien has actually just hit pit road, as we say that. Scott Ramler up in P1 by 3.3 seconds over Ronnie Osmer and Butch Davis, who you see about to have a side-by-side battle going in to the Della Roggia, and Osmer got it all wrong on entry and finds himself in the gravel. Oh, and Hollingsworth right behind him as well.
I'm just catching up on that. Oh yeah, he just hit that enormous curve on the inside and it just bounced him out wide. Got to make sure he doesn't do a terrible rejoin. Nope, he seems to be pretty clean there, I think.
Yep,
yeah, he's all right.
Hollingsworth going off right behind him as well. So now that opens Ramler's lead up by another second.
Yeah, that's right. The lead now 4.5 seconds out front.
So now the top 3 is Butch Davis, Scott Ramler, Butch Davis, and Bentley Glazer. Your current top 3, and Glazer starting in the 7th position. One of the guys to just stay on track, and that's one of the keys here. You can win one of these races just by staying on the racing surface.
You know what? You've never said a more true statement than that. At the end of the day, you've got to be there. You've got to be in it to win it, and that's a fact. So a load of people diving into the pits now as well. Those soft tires must be going off.
And this is very interesting, too. Only 1 lap before we get the competition caution, and a lot of guys on the Reds are coming in now.
See, that's an interesting moment in the race just then, because if the pace car is going to be coming out shortly, and everyone that hasn't boxed is going to box, they're going to make a significant gain. So all of those down from Tim Bates, Tim Bates has gone in, Kevin O'Brien. Down, they're all massively going to benefit from that.
Everybody except for Scott Ramler, Chris Simard, and Tony Phillips decided to come in there, and looking at those 3 drivers, Tony Phillips has actually just disappeared here. Oh, now Phillips is in pit road. All of those guys were on the Reds to start this race.
I wonder if they didn't fuel long enough or something. That's an interesting choice. I would have thought that everyone would be working as hard as they could to get that tire to that point where they would benefit from a quick pit stop.
And Rambler is going to stay out. Next up would be Simard here coming through Parabolica. He is going to stay out as well. Competition caution will come out at the end of this lap here.
Frank, can I just ask a question? Do they have to use both compounds?
No, they do not.
Right, okay. Copy that.
As we see Butch Davis, who we're expecting to be the race leader here when we restart this race. I would have to assume around lap 14 or 15 after this competition caution. Butch currently sitting in the third position, 38 seconds behind this man, Scott Rambler, who is fighting his way through traffic of guys that came into pit.
I reckon 38 seconds might be good enough to hang on to it, you know? I think it'll be touch and go, but I reckon it'll be close.
Yeah, looking at my timing and scoring, is I think Chris Simard may have kissed the gravel trap coming out of Lesmo 2. Looking at my timing and scoring, it's a 39-second pit delta. So if he can have a really good in as now the competition caution comes out.
So Rambler goes round again. That's interesting. It chooses not to box. If he wanted to do it, that was the moment. What does Chris Simard do then? He's coming around Parabolica now. Does he dive into the pit lane?
It's probably
no,
something.
He doesn't.
Yeah, that's probably something we should have asked race control. I think I'm not entirely sure. I think pit lane might be closed right now, which is why.
Right. Okay.
This would be happening.
Just checking the pit lane cameras to see if I could see a red light. I don't see any lights.
Oh, Chris Simard is just driven way off.
Oh, so he has. I was on the wrong camera just now.
No, you're okay. I don't think Simard. I know I was surprised with how quick the safety car got out. I don't think Simard was quite expecting the safety car to pick up Scott Rambler that quickly.
Oof, yeah.
So let's watch here.
Tell you what, he has done well to keep that out of the wall.
So this is Simard here coming out of Ascari. He's going to come through Parabolica, so we have a second here before we see what happened with him. Going to ride on board with him coming through Parabolica. Hits the start line now, so he is under caution. I'm assuming he's looking at some settings here, trying to catch up. Not necessarily looking where he's going, and oh, they're there already. Well, and if those Firestones weren't done before that, they're certainly done now.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's on the softs there as well, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
He is.
This is as though everybody has gone out onto the softs except for Ronnie Osmer. Osmer, from what I can see from my timing and scoring, Osmer is the only driver on track that is on the black harder tire.
Do you have any idea what the delta between the two tires is?
I think they had said there's only about a 10th difference between the two, so...
Right, okay.
It's going to be interesting to see, because I would have to assume Rambler and Simard, you're going to need to make a pit stop before the end of the race no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. So it's... go on, Frank, sorry.
You're okay. This is the teething problem, the teething we have to go through and working together the first time. I would think my personal strategy would be to put the hard tire on. If the pace is almost identical, put the hard tire on and try to see how long I can last and watch the guys on softs come in.
Yeah, a good friend of mine who I do a lot of racing with. On Monday nights, I race in the World GT Championship, and my friend Pete Harrod, who won it a couple of seasons ago, he won the pro class. I had this conversation with him about what do you do with tires and fuel and everything, and he went, I always put as much fuel in as I can, and I stay out on track for as long as possible. And that gives me the opportunity to react, see what people are doing. It gives me some leeway. So that's what I do. I would have started the race with a full tank, a hard tire on. I want to get as deep into this race as I can before I have to stop.
It appears as though everyone is staying on the reds that came in. So yeah, it looks as though everybody's staying on the reds. Scott Ramler brought a majority of the field down to pit road again with him. So the top 8 of Butch Davis, Nate Siefker, Paul Crumry, Carl Burke, Jeffrey Bogan, Brett Beasley, Jeffrey Roulette, and Ronnie Osmer did not come into pit road there.
I guess they must have all stopped already then. Yeah, that's the group that stopped before the pace car came out.
Yes. So again, working our one and only competition caution here at Monza tonight. And instead of trying to fill a bunch of time, we're going to do the thing that people probably hate the most, which is go to commercial break. We will be right back after this. We'll be right back for the green flag here at Monza for round 3 of the Sim Racers Edge Alpha Series. Don't go anywhere. About to restart round number 3 for the Sim Racers Edge Alpha Series. Round number 3 at Monza here tonight. We're going to restart here on lap 15 for this race. Butch Davis, Nate Siefker, Paul Crumry, Carl Burke, and then Jeffrey Bogan. Currently your top 5 as they sit right now. The man who led the first 11 laps of this race, Scott Ramler, is mired back in the 9th position after coming into pit road on this competition caution. And James, that I'm sure is going to put a little bit of a crinkle into his plan because he had been out front. This is going to be a completely different race for him now.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's worth considering as well that Nate Siefker, starting from the pit lane, is currently sitting in P2. He's got the fastest lap of the race under his belt. He is surely going to be looking at this restart going, I can take the lead of the race here, and then he's in control.
As now Butch Davis gets going, we are back under green. That was the one and only competition caution that we are going to have here tonight. Butch getting out to a 4/10 lead over Nate Siefker, and already battling going on in the midfield. As we look, there is Scott Ramler now trying to get past Jeffrey Roulette, going into the Curva Grande. He's going to be able to get the lane, but he's not going to be able to get the wing in there on Roulette. He's going to have to sit behind him going into the Della Roggia.
That's right. Nate Siefker having a little look up the inside at Butch Davis, but Butch Davis, he got a really good exit off the top of Parabolica. His lead is now 0.7 of a second. He must have been thinking about that long and hard while he was behind the pace car.
It's a long enough pace lap here so you can get a couple of thoughts in.
Yeah, that's for sure.
As Butch Davis currently showing the way here at Monza. Paul Crumry, who had a less than stellar week last week at Kentucky. From what I have heard from race stewards, he had picked up four penalty points after last week's race, and a stern discussion for Paul Crumry about as many incidents as as far as how many cautions, he caused during the race at Kentucky last week. So this is going to be a nice little redemption drive for him, as it looks like Ronnie Osmer may have just clipped the grass going into Parabolica. He is fine.
I'm keeping a very close eye on Nate Siefker, having a look at Butch Davis. The gap now 1/10 of a second as they head towards where the normal turns 1 and 2 would be. They go over that massive bump on the inside, and Nate Siefker just dances into the lead.
Yep,
No problem at all.
So Nate Siefker has gone from stone dead last, starting in pit road, to the race lead in 16 laps. This is why he won.
Sorry. Go right ahead, Frank.
No,
sorry.
this is why he won every single road course race on the calendar last year.
Yeah, he has played a bit of a blinder so far. He must have been looking at that lap 11 going, the pace car's going to come out, and I'm going to make sure that I'm in a good position when the race restarts. And looking back to Scott Ramler, he's up to 6th place now, 4.5 seconds off the lead. He is absolutely cursing his luck right now.
He certainly is. Trying to get back into that top 5 to get Ronnie Osmer would do that for him. As Osmer going a little wide coming out of Ascari, which is very easy to do. There is a huge curb on the third corner, the second left-hander at the end of Ascari, as I think we have a couple of cars off in the back. Charles Woods was off. Tyler Bloom was off.
So, Ronnie Osmer goes wide through Parabolica, and Scott Ramler jumps up into 5th place.
There's that. We'll show you this pass right now as they head through Parabolica. And, yep, he went way wide trying to keep that 31 of Ramler behind him. Just couldn't do it. And now
stay with it because Osmer is having a look back up the inside, but Ramler has the inside going into Della Roggia and hangs on to that position. He's been good through there tonight so far, and he's right on the back of Jeffrey Bogan now as well.
He certainly has been, and Bogan's had a couple of off tracks here tonight, up into that 4th position thanks to pit strategy by not pitting under the competition caution, as Paul Crumry is not that far away from Scott Ramler either in that number 31.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, so Scott Rambler right on the back of Jeffrey Bogan now. He must surely be lining him up for a pass coming out of Parabolica. He's just got to keep it neat. The interesting thing about setting a car up for Monza, of course, is that you have to maximize your straight line speed, which means, of course, compromising that middle sector. So if the car is a little bit loose underneath you and you're not completely on top of that, you can be at sea and you can lose the car quite easily.
See how close those two are getting as we ride on board with Scott Rambler going through Parabolica as he makes the move on the 21. You can see just off camera, there he is, the 21 of Jeffrey Bogan, trying to maintain his position, trying to fight back for it going into the Curva Grande, but it looks like Rambler has the position. He is going to go smooth sailing. And now Paul Crumry in his sights.
Yeah. Not out of the woods yet, of course. Still a long drag down to De La Roja, but of course he's a bit of a lock-up there from Paul Crumry. That puts Scott Rambler right on the back of him. Scott Rambler must be able to smell blood here. He's ready to rumble, isn't he?
Certainly is. As we look a little bit further back now, this is the 53 of Carl Burke, the 77 of Chris Simard, as Rambler has had an off, and that's a big off coming out of the second Lesmo.
Yeah, I caught that live. That was he caught the rear tire of Crumry, and yeah, they both lost it, and it put Rambler into the wall.
This is just as wow, that was an aggressive move from Rambler trying to pick up the pieces after a mistake by Paul Crumry, and boy, that was a hard hit.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal.
So now a guy who would have been who was considered one of the favorites going into tonight, who wasn't named Nate Siefker, has now had a major accident and has essentially put himself out of this race.
Yeah, Nate Siefker is breathing a sigh of relief there. He's going to be well. I would hope that he's not made up to have his competitor out of contention, but he will be taking a deep breath because of that. But that being said, though, Butch Davis is within a second of him now.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the only competition that we have seen recently on road courses Nate Siefker have is from Chris Walker. Now, as we had mentioned last week, Chris Walker is out recovering from surgery. So I think Ronnie Osmer's had a big off. He has in Lesmo 1.
Ronnie Osmer, let's have a look at that.
What on earth happened to him? He's going into Lesmo 1. He's behind Bogan.
Oh, he's just caught the gravel.
Yep.
And absolutely speared into the wall.
The slightest kiss, and again, Crumry just does get clipped by Osmer, and that's all it takes. Just a little kiss of the gravel trap, and you're in big trouble around here.
Yeah, that is for sure. The car is so loaded through there as well, so a little touch will send you into the shadow realm if you're not careful.
Yeah, and that's certainly where Osmer ended up.
Coming back to the lead of the race, Butch Davis has just taken the lead of the race.
Yep, he has, and we'll show you this pass here in just a second, but right after we see what happens going into De La Roja, as it looks to be all clean going through the De La Roja. It is, so let's now take a look at that pass, and James, as you talked about during pre-race, that draft is what does it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said it a bunch of times already tonight, the draft is significant around here.
That gets the move done going into what would be the Rettifilio chicane. Into the Rettifilio and out of the Rettifilio, the move was done. Go before the Curva Grande. As now we look for a battle for third position as Rick Ravon battling Jeffrey Bogan going into the Variante Ascari, and that is exactly what he will get, third position going into the Variante Ascari for Rick Ravon.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just keeping one eye on the battle for the lead. Nate Skeefer is still within a second of Butch Davis, who seems to have a really good turn of pace underneath him. Nate Skeefer now within 7/10, which means he will get a bit of a tow, but it is a long, even though it is a long way, 7/10 is a lot, but it might be enough to get him alongside. Just keep an eye on Jeffrey Bogan and Rick Ravon as well. gap there is 6 tenths.
We're getting into some uncharted territory here. These guys all came into pit just prior to the competition caution on lap 10. We are working what would be the 11th lap of the race on the red wall soft tire. So these guys are finding out a lot about their race cars right now and how they're handling on these worn out softer tires as they try to make it through the end of the race.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the two leaders, Butch Davis and Nate Schiefer, pitted on lap 9, whereas Rick Raven behind them, lap 13. So that even though that's only 4 laps, this tire is fairly fragile from what I understand. So that's going to be a significant difference not too long from now.
Rick Raven was one of the drivers that came in both before and during the competition caution. Raven it's showing like that cannot be right, that he's been down in the pits 4 times in this race. That cannot be right.
No, that can't be right if he's running in P3.
He's certainly done a fantastic job here tonight. The man who finished second at Pocono in the season opener and is now won Kentucky, is now running in the podium positions. And Raven, after making his debut with Sim Racer's Edge last season at the Indianapolis 500, Raven has certainly put on a show in every single race he's competed in this series. Not new to racing with these guys, but new to the series.
Absolutely. So I'm once again keeping a little eye on the lead. Nate Schiefer is making himself pretty comfortable in P2. No reason to be greedy. We're at that stage of the race now where being patient is going to pay off later on, especially if you're on fairly worn tires.
You can see right there on your screen the difference in lap times between these two guys over the last 3 laps. The last 5 laps. The only lap Schiefer was actually quicker than Butch Davis was lap 17 4 laps ago, and it looks as though he's going to fall off by just a little bit more here on this lap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Butch Davis looking incredibly strong in this phase of the race, I must say.
There you see the difference in sector times there.
Yeah, Davis has clearly got the wood on him in this phase of the race. That's the interesting thing about longer races, isn't it? That there very much are phases to the race. Just because Nate Schiefer was really fast coming through the midfield early on doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the way for the rest of the race, and that's very much what we're seeing.
It certainly is. This is Tyler Bloom going off at the second Lesmo, just takes a little too wide. It's so easy to do. As we have pit stops starting here, Jeffrey Bogan is in, Carl Burke is in, Brett Beasley is in. Guys that were running in the top 10 taking to pit road here early. Could this draw some of the guys that were racing in front of them in?
Yeah, very potentially. I'm having a look at Jeffrey Roulet. Sorry, is it Roulet or Roulette? Roulette. And Dan Brassington having a bit of a ding-dong. There's 4 tenths between them and closing, so we'll keep one eye on that battle. They're just heading through the first Lesmo now.
Through Lesmo 2 onto what would be in Formula 1 the DRS straightaway. Paul Crumry in this battle as well. Crumry not for position, however. As a matter of fact, both of those drivers behind them are not for position. Paul Crumry sitting a lap down in the 17th position. Phillips sitting a lap down in the 18th position.
The leaders are both on pit road right now, by the way.
Yep, here they come. Butch Davis and Nate Schiefer, line astern, are in. This will give Rick Raven a lap lead.
Chris Simard is oh no, sorry, that's a lapped car, isn't it?
Yep. Simard has decided to stay out. Hollingsworth has decided to stay out. Remember, we saw Hollingsworth run wide earlier on at the De La Roggia chicane.
Yes, that's right. So I guess he must be taking okay care of those tires then since then.
Yeah, we have seen Hollingsworth and the guy who he's racing right behind right now, Bentley Glazer, These guys are more predominantly on the Tuesday night series, the Western States series. Those guys, two of the better drivers at saving tires, better at long run pace, and it certainly appears as though it is translating here to IndyCar. This is the first time we're seeing. This is the first season that Bentley Glazer has competed in IndyCar that we know of, at least. Finished second last week at Kentucky.
That's some good going. I'm just looking at the timing screens as well. Nate Schiefer has come out on the hard tire by the looks of things.
Yes, he has.
That splits the strategies between himself and Butch Davis. We'll keep an eye on those lap times. That might mean then that Nate Schiefer is planning to take it all the way to the end and have fresher tires when he gets there if Butch Davis is going to try and take his tires all the way.
So, and this will put to the test, as I had said, I think there was only about a tenth between the reds and the blacks. So this will really put that into shape.
Yes, it will. The gap now only 0.4 of a second, so he's done well out of in the pit stop phase, and he's going to be well into the toe here. Let's see how he goes through Curva Grande. Looks like he's pulling up pretty quickly. The gap now down to a tenth. Butch Davis does not go defensive by the looks of things, and Nate Schiefer is through, but not out of the woods yet.
So Nate Schiefer has gotten into that second position. Rick Ravon has not come into pit yet. He is 28.7 seconds ahead of this group, as I think Ronnie Osmer has had another big issue, has had another big moment here. We'll take a look and see what has happened to Osmer. This is going through Ascari here. Hits that big sausage curb that's there and pounds the wall hard coming out of Ascari. I cannot tell you how many times I've done that as Rick Ravon comes into the pits.
It's kind of a Monza rite of passage, that really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like the Darlington Stripe. Everyone's got one. Everyone's done it before.
Absolutely. So Rick Ravon pits from the lead, which means that Nate Schiefer is going to be taking. Nate Siefka is going to be taking the lead. Excuse me. And I must say, he's already pulling out a decent gap to Butch Davis. I wonder if Butch Davis feels like he has to look after his tires a little bit more because he's trying to get to the end, whereas Siefka doesn't necessarily have that concern.
I don't think that either one of them can make it to the end. Both of those guys came in on lap 9. And going to 23, that's only about, 14 to 15 laps. There's still 20 to go in this thing.
Right, yeah. I
think,
suppose there's going to be a limitation on how much fuel they're able to put in as well.
I think for Siefker, this might just be a case of I feel more comfortable in the long run on this set of tires, as Rick Ravon has an issue through the De La Roggia chicane.
That puts Chris Simard right on his back as well. The gap now 3.5 tenths back, coming out of the second Lesmo.
Cold tires and just pounds that orange sausage curb on the back half of that De La Roggia chicane. Did a good job to stay in third place, but you're right. He has Chris Simard right on him. And Jeffrey Bogan and Brett Beasley aren't too far behind them either. Just 2 seconds separating the back end of Simard and the front wing of Jeffrey Bogan.
That's right. And looking a little bit further back as well, Carl Burke and Jeff Hollingsworth having a good battle. The gap between them is only 6 tenths. Jeff Hollingsworth coming up behind the back of Carl Burke as they go through Parabolica now. He should get a good enough toe to be able to get at least alongside coming up towards the first chicane.
And that 28-second gap, the 26-second faster lap time, those are pit laps for those two drivers that you see on the graphic. So we're seeing pairs here. We've got Siefker and Davis, Ravon and Simard, Bogan and Beasley, and Burke and Hollingsworth making up the top 8 positions. Beyond that, everyone else rather spread out through this field. Tyler Bloom having a mare of a race has just had another off in that number 96 Voodoo Racing Machine. Currently sitting in the 15th position is Tyler Bloom, and this is one of those tracks where it's a simple enough road track to be able to get right, but still it's road racing. There's precision involved, and a lot of guys who feel more comfortable on ovals just cannot find the comfort when you have to turn right.
Yeah, once again, as you say, it's a simple, pretty straightforward track, but we've thrown in the curveball of them having to take all of the downforce off, which does make parts of this track pretty sketchy, whereas where they would normally be pretty straightforward.
Jeff Hollingsworth has gotten around Carl Burke, and you can see the gap there already up over a second between the 97 and the 53.
Yes, I watched that move unfold as they headed towards the De La Roja chicane. He just absolutely waltzed past him into the braking zone and hasn't looked back.
We're going to see it right here, and wow, just so much closing speed. It was able to get into line before the chicane. Just goes to show how much that draft helps you around here.
It really does. The draft has played a massive role in this race so far. I must say, I've been very impressed with the racing here tonight. This has been really, really enjoyable.
It certainly has been, especially after the first couple of races this season, which have been a caution fest, to put it about as bluntly as I could. We had, I think, over a dozen cautions at Pocono for the season opener. Kentucky had a very similar amount of cautions, so it is quite nice and quite refreshing, as a matter of fact, to be able to get a nice, clean race like this.
Absolutely. I'm having a look at Brett Beasley chasing down Jeffrey Bogan. He's got Jeff Hollingsworth just behind him as well. This is the battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th as they head down towards Parabolica right now. It's Jeff Hollingsworth who seems to be the one on the move here. He's right on the tail of Brett Beasley, and I would imagine because of that is pretty easily going to make his way through. But he's in the interesting position though of they went side by side through Parabolica, so he's not really benefiting. Oh, that was close. Oh,
we're riding on board.
The coffee now, isn't he?
We're riding on board, just trying to find somewhere on Brett Beasley's car that we could see Hollingsworth, and we just caught that as Bentley Glazer was coming out of pit road, and around goes Jeffrey Bogan.
It looks like Hollingsworth.
Oh, and Beasley went off as well.
Yeah, I think he must have been caught up in that. That was an unfortunate comedy of errors, really.
So here we're watching the replay here. This is going into the De La Roja. Again, one of the calamity corners here. Boy, Bogan just too late on the brakes, pardon me. And then going around it, Brett Beasley spins, getting out of the gravel trap, and right behind him, Bentley Glazer almost did the same thing.
Yeah. Oof. That was a hairy moment for sure.
Yeah, oof indeed.
Yeah, that's a big oof.
So the top three right now maintaining pretty much the same. Nate Siefker, Butch Davis, and Rick Ravon are currently your top three runners. As you see Siefker bearing down to put Paul Crumry another lap down. Chris Simard and Jeff Hollingsworth round out the top five. Carl Burke, Jeffrey Roulette, Jeffrey Bogan, Brett Beasley, and Dan Brazington currently occupy the positions in the top 10. We have 16 laps to go. We are assuming that we're going to see another round of pit stops here before this race is over. Can Nate Siefker possibly win this race after starting on pit road? We'll find out when we come back right after this.
Yeah, it must be frustrating running around in 13th with all of the pace that he's got in that car, especially when you can see the leader just behind you. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what tires they throw on. It looks like they've gone for another set of softs. Nate Siefker out front there is doing really solid work on that hard tire, putting in the good laps and extending out the gap. So the gap now for the lead is about 4.5 seconds on that hard tire. Well, surely he'll stay on the black tire because he's done such a good job on that tire. Like presumably now though, let me put my teeth back in my face and try this again. A good explanation as for his sudden turn of pace there, obviously natural talent and whatever. But if he was running lighter fuel than Butch Davis, that might go some way towards explaining how he was able to pull away a gap. And of course, the reverse of that now is Butch Davis is running around with a much lighter fuel load. So will we see that gap get smaller now? I'll be sure to thank him for that after the race. That's brilliant.
I see. I apologize. I turned James on. I didn't turn myself on for the last one. What I said there was that was an absolutely beautiful explanation that you had just made as to why he would go back onto the black tire and then he comes out on the reds.
Absolutely brilliant. Butch Davis boxes from the lead.
Thank you, Byron, for that, letting me know. I definitely would have went the rest of the race muted. As Chris Simard comes into pit road as well. Simard running in the third position. Rick Ravon is in a very good situation in that number 5. He lasted about 2 to 3 laps longer than any of his competitors on his set of tires and on his fuel strategy. He's going to have to do less time on those softs than anyone else. He could push a little bit harder to try to possibly catch Davis for the second position.
Yeah, Nate Siefker quite comfortably now in a net first place. The gap back to Butch Davis now over 7 seconds. So he's had an absolute belter of an outlap for sure.
And Butch Davis not getting much help from Paul Crumry, who currently sits in front of him. Crumry, I believe, 1 lap down at this point in the number 3, so Davis getting held up is certainly going to help there. Just in that sector alone, Siefker was able to pull out another second.
Ooh, excuse me.
Oh, you're good.
Yes, so when did Rick Ravon last pit? Lap 25. So his tires now are about 10 or 11 laps old. In fact, he boxes. Takes the words right out of my mouth.
There you see the graphic on screen right there as to when these guys have all come into pit here tonight. Siefker comes in. Bentley Glazer coming in as well. Glazer came in not that long ago in that number 87. So surprising to see him coming back in as Ravon actually blows his pit box. Has to back up just a little bit. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. That could put him in a danger zone with Chris Simard in the 77.
Yeah, I'm watching Simard coming round Parabolica now, so he should be okay, I think. But of course, it takes a beat to get up to speed as you come out of the pit lane. So we'll see how this gap narrows as he approaches. Tell you what, going long on your pit box like that is the worst feeling in the world when you're racing under pressure.
It certainly is, and you can see the 77 on the track map there. That is Chris Simard, who we're following along with right now, and he is well behind Rick Ravon in the 5, who has Kevin O'Brien for company right behind him. And there you can also see the 1 and the 43, the gap there, almost that entire straightaway between the Ascari chicane and Lesmo 2.
That's right, yes. So I'm just looking around to see where the good battles are. It's Brett Beasley is chasing down Jeffrey Rollett. The gap between them is 1.2 seconds and dropping by over a second last lap. So I would guess that we're about to see a little bit of action. Jeffrey Rollett is about 1 and a bit seconds behind Carl Burke as well. So plenty to play for. This is for 6th, 7th, and 8th positions. Scott Ramler approaching them as well.
Certainly is. There you see the difference between the two drivers' lap times. Roulette almost a second slower than Brett Beasley that last time around. As Siefker now holds a 7 3/4 second lead over Butch Davis. Davis has 8.5 over Rick Ravon. Chris Simard currently 5.5 seconds behind Rick Ravon and has 16 seconds on Jeff Hollingsworth, who currently occupies the 5th position. Then the battle you're seeing now on screen between Carl Burke, Jeffrey Roulette, and Brett Beasley. This effectively a battle for the 6th position as Scott Ramler is coming up, and he is coming up quick. Ramler might be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel here. Last time Ramler came into pit was lap 29. That's only 11 laps to the finish. He could be good to go.
Yeah, Scott Ramler is the one that we've got to keep our eye on for the rest of the race, because he's putting in absolutely stellar lap times. He did a 1:26.7 last lap. Brett Beasley at 27.9, Jeffrey Rollett at 28.3, and Carl Burke at 29.5. So yeah, Scott Ramler is the one to watch for me.
So, and as you were saying about Siefker and the tire compounds, I was calculating to a 40-lap race. It is a 45-lap race, so Ramler is going to have to come in again. I will exit stage right now.
Shame that. Are you sure we can't just lop five laps off the end of the race?
I don't think the stewards would allow it, as we see Jeffrey Roulette now going and passing Carl Burke. That is for the 6th position into Parabolica.
That was a nice move, I must say. But Jeffrey Roulette is going to have Carl Burke is going to have the toe now heading down towards the chicane.
Certainly
as is Brett Beasley.
Scott Ramler is in pit road right now. So I'm glad I caught my mistake before we went on a completely different tangent with Ramler. As we have 7 laps to go here, not missing anything up at the front. Nate Siefker currently holding an 8-second lead over 2nd place Butch Davis.
Yeah, the real action right now is happening for P6, P7, and P8. The gap between this lot is about 2 and a bit seconds. Could end up getting very spicy before the end of the race. Here's hoping, anyway.
Certainly could. Fastest lap of the race right now belongs to Nate Siefker, who put in a 25.16. The only other driver to be able to put down a 1-minute 25-second lap is Scott Ramler at a 4.8. Everyone else is in the 1:26s or slower.
That is a considerable lap time around here, I must say. That is some going.
I mean, you're approaching Formula One speeds at that point. Now, these cars can, in a straight line in oval trim, go a lot faster than a Formula One car, but these cars don't have the downforce that Formula One cars do. And what was the F1 pole time here last year? Like a 1:18, something like that?
Oh yeah, and don't forget as well, the F1 guys were doing the first chicane as well.
Yeah, so you're cutting out a chicane and you're still, what, 7, 8 seconds off of Formula One time as Brett Beasley gets around Carl Burke for the 7th position.
That's crazy, isn't it? Really? Like, this goes to show how fast Formula One is, really.
Yeah, it just goes to show. Oh, wow.
I'll tell you what, though, I will say this. We have seen loads more action tonight than you typically see in a Formula One race.
Yes, and it's nice when all the cars are the same and there's not two cars that are just better than everybody else. It is nice.
Yeah, it is. I must say, I'm a big fan of that. I really like the aero screen as well. I think it's a much nicer solution than the Halo.
I believe, if I remember correctly, this was the solution that Red Bull had put out, was the aero screen
Yeah.
for the F1 cars, and they ended up going with the Mercedes Halo. And
Yes, that's right. I remember Sebastian Vettel trialing it on the Ferrari in Silverstone a few years ago, and didn't have particularly good things to say about it. Although I would guess that it was kind of they bodged it on to get it on and gather some data. But yeah, I much prefer this to the Halo, I think.
And wouldn't you know who won the pony? What car has been quicker with the Halo? And that would be the team that flippin' designed it. Who would have ever thought?
Everybody, get your tinfoil hats out. It's a conspiracy. I'm calling it.
So the top three as they sit right now are Nate Siefker, Butch Davis, and Rick Ravon. Those guys have been in position pretty solidly here for the last little while. Chris Simard and Jeff Hollingsworth solidly in the top 5. As there's about another 17 seconds, pardon me, between Roulette and Hollingsworth for the 5th position. And after the Roulette, Burke, and Beasley battle, there really hasn't been much going on here in this
Beasley's
race.
In the wall.
Yeah, oh wow, Beasley is in the wall hard. That's at Lesmo 2.
Yeah, so he wasn't near anyone, so I guess he must have just lost it on his own. Let's find out.
I think this might have been him. Yep.
Yeah, just
coming
ran
through
wide.
Lesmo 2. Yep, another thing that's really easy to do.
Oh, he'll be absolutely gutted about that so close to the race. Close to the end of the race, apologies.
And you can see how much he's sliding. That is the brand new iRacing Ice texture that they've added in with one of these more recent updates.
Yes, I must say that is my one big criticism of iRacing is just how little, like how much the grip changes when you go off the track.
I mean, now we are on the portal, so we do have to bite our tongues a little bit here.
Copy that.
I will say, if iRacing did decide to do get into ice racing, now they've got asphalt racing down, they've got dirt racing pretty well down at this point. Ice racing might be the way of the future.
Yeah, I'd certainly get into that.
So here is the race leader, Nate Siefker, before we get kicked off the portal down. Siefker, with 3 laps to go, has absolutely dominated this race and has not lost a road course race.
Yes.
In Sim Racer's Edge, period.
That is an incredible statistic. It's worth considering as well that he started this race from the pit lane as well.
And even, I mean, we sat there, we said, you know what, we might have gotten him this time. He might start from pit lane every race now. Yeah,
well, I tell you what, let's just be careful that we don't do the classic commentator's curse. Let's not shake his hand too hard just yet. Fat Lady's not singing. We're not home yet. But you are right, though. It has 100%. Been a brilliant drive from him.
It certainly has been. 5 road courses on the schedule last season. The only one he did not win the pole for was the last one at Watkins Glen. Winner at Road America, Mid-Ohio, Indianapolis road course, and then Watkins Glen. So 4 road course races on the schedule last season, won them all.
Wow, that is some going. I must say, I've enjoyed seeing Indy cars at Monza. Not a combination I ever would have put together.
It's a nice little change, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, we're so used to seeing, especially on the iRacing service, we're so used to seeing the GT cars come here. IMSA was just here last week, the official series. Formula One cars, obviously, are synonymous with this place.
Yeah.
Even the stock cars come here. They run the oval. They don't run the road course. But the stock cars come here for Carb Cup. So it is nice to see a different car other than a GT car or an LMP or a Formula One car here on this service. And this is one of the great things about iRacing. We bring them down. Now we build them back up. This is one of the great things about iRacing is that you can put these combinations together and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about sim racing in general, really, isn't it? You know, I'll skip the big marketing speech about sim racing that I have because I run a sim racing business. But you know, the ability to see these kinds of combinations that you wouldn't normally get is brilliant, and well done iRacing, because you guys have smashed it.
They certainly have, and I think from what I've heard, in the next big update, which this season 1 of 2021 is almost over. I think coming up with this next season, we are going to get the dirt Bristol. So that's very quick on that one as well.
Wow.
Is Seifker taking about as calm and as cool as he could possibly get. Can't wait to see what else we get with. They've been rather hush-hush this time as far as what we're getting in this next major update.
Right.
So go ahead.
No, I was just going to keep rambling. Go on, let's talk about the race. It's far more important.
So as we see Nate Seifker going through the Variante Ascari, James, as you had mentioned, started on the pit lane after getting a penalty for impeding a driver in qualifying last week at Kentucky. About to go through the Parabolica. The man is still undefeated on road courses, straightens it out of Parabolica. Nate Seifker wins round number 3, his second win of the season, and first on a road course this year.
Oh, what a drive from Nate Seifker, honestly. You know, it's starting from the pit lane and making his way through the way that he did and winning so dominantly. There's a great quote that I love for moments like this. It's not in moments of ease that you are made a champion, and that was a champion's drive for me.
It certainly was, and he was the champion last year. There is Butch Davis, your second place finisher. Rick Ravon continues his strong run to start this season. Chris Samard has just crossed the line. He will come home fourth. Here comes Jeff Hollingsworth across the line. He will take home the 5th position. But the man of the hour, as he has been on every road course that this series has come across, Nate Seifker, right back in victory lane, mind you, while suffering with COVID.
That is absolutely some going if that's the case. Good grief. No, well done. That was a superb drive. And again, fastest lap of the race, a 1:25.1. That absolutely blows everyone else away, except for Scott Ramler. Special mention to Scott Ramler. Ramler did lead the race for a while, did a 25.48, but down in 9th place because of some contact that I would argue wasn't his fault.
Yeah, no, that was... Yeah, going back to that incident, we did miss a couple of incidences while we were winding this race down. Dan Brazington had crashed. Timothy Bates and Charles Woods had also had an incident on that final lap. Woods coming home in the 11th position. Bates coming home in 12th. Brett Beasley, after that spin that we saw, comes home in the 10th position. So only losing 3 spots there, but still, that's got to be a little bit of a pain for Brett Beasley to lose those spots so late. So we are going
Boy.
to get interviews going here as I try to find where everybody is.
We've got some donuts, of course, from our race winner. You do love to see it, don't you?
Yep, especially in these cars, because in Formula One, they never seem to. It only seems to be the final race of the year
Yeah. Well,
where
they've
you
got
burn
to.
it down.
They only have 3 engines to last them a whole year, and
Yeah,
they've got to
that
look
is
after the
true.
gearboxes and all this kinds of stuff. So it's just not a feasible thing for them to do.
Yeah, that is true. Trying to find our second place finisher, and I've skimmed over him about 5 times. As there he is. But first, we will bring in the man you see currently sitting at the pole position stager for the start of the race.
Moved to your channel.
Nate Siefker. It doesn't appear as though starting on pit road phases you much. Back in victory lane yet again.
On the surface, yeah, it doesn't look like it, but trust me, on the inside, it was not very easy today. The pit lane start, yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect from that, and then lap 7 there, I accidentally got in a roulette and damaged the front wing, so I had a front wing damage for 3 laps to deal with, and then I was surprised that a couple people didn't go with the strategy that I thought would win the race. Surprised that Rambler didn't go on that strategy. I'm surprised Rick didn't go on that strategy either, because we could have made it. We just had to do a little fuel saving there in that second stint, which was key to us getting there. And once we did that, yeah, that was a strategy to be on. And I'm surprised that more people just didn't do what I did. Really, honestly.
Well, it seems to come easy to somebody who has not lost a road course race in the history of this series. You said it was a rough night. What was it about tonight? I mean, besides the obvious, trying to make up the ground, passing these guys, what was the toughest part for you about starting from pit lane tonight and getting up to the front right at the time that competition caution came out? You went from starting in pit lane to essentially second on the grid in 10 laps.
Tire wear. That was a huge thing tonight, was tire wear. You had about 2 laps where the tires felt good, and then they were junk. So that first stint was pretty difficult in terms of getting by people and then managing the tires the entire time as you're doing that. And the tires really didn't feel that bad in that first stint. That second stint was a little better because we had a chance to get a heat cycle in the tires. The tires were pretty good that second stint. That third stint with the prime tire that I went on, I'm surprised more people didn't do that either. That tire did not feel very good, but it was a lot more stable, and I was able to pull away from Butch there at the end just because of the stability of the tire. And then that last it, tires were jello with 2 to go, so it was all about just keeping it on the track, not getting any incidents, get that bonus point for that, and just trying to minimize. You're trying to shrink that lead at that Rick has in the points, really.
You came into the race 11 points down tonight. You have next week off, recovering, going into Gateway in 2 weeks' time. What are your expectations out of Gateway, which has not proven to be one of the more successful tracks with these Indy cars?
Not great. I don't think. I think overall the race will be good. It's just I'm not really good at Gateway. I always seem to get caught up in something. I've been involved in league racing. I've been involved in 3 last lap crashes. So hopefully I don't get involved in the last lap crash. But yeah, it's quite difficult to pass the Gateway. So whoever gets the lead is gonna probably win the race. There in the last 20 laps or so. So it'll be interesting to see how the race progresses next week. Hopefully the setup's pretty good. Hopefully it's racy, and hopefully it puts out a good show.
Yeah, hopefully does. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, of course. I'd like to thank you, Frank, and James. Welcome to ESBN. I'm proud family to be a part of. So thank you to you guys for being up in the booth here, and hopefully it's a great race to watch. I'll be watching the broadcast later tonight. I want to thank all the admin staff, Chris, who is recovering back in the hospital, doing some surgery afterwards. So hopefully he watched tonight. Hopefully he cheered me on, and it'll be nice to see him back on the track. And thank all the rest of the admin staff for, Will Butch, Tim, Dan, Sam for being up in the booth in the race control tower tonight. They all do a fantastic job week in, week out. And then I want to thank everybody in the league that comes out, supports us, comes out every week. Having 24 odd people on a road course is never an easy task, and we did it tonight. And then I want to thank all our partners, Turn Racing. They do a great job, and then all of ESPN's partners as well for allowing you guys to put on the show that you guys are able to.
All right, Nate, you have proven that starting from pit road and COVID at the same time cannot keep a man from winning a road course race, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you. I look forward to being with you Friday.
All right.
User was
so that was your winner here tonight, Nate Siefker. Coming up next is going to be our second place finisher, Butch Davis. And James, I am going to give Butch to you once in a moment here.
Hey, wake up.
As we just take a second here. So, James, I believe you should be with our second place finisher here now.
Yes, we are joined by Butch Davis indeed. Butch, thank you for joining us. Talk us through your race, pal. How did that go for you?
How you doing, guys? Definitely unexpected podium. I was just hoping for a top 5 at best. Primary goal going into this race was just try to have a clean race. No off-track incidents, no contact with other cars. Nate qualifying on pole, bumping me down to P3 for the start. But he had the pit road penalty, so that put me on pole. Had a couple moments there with Rambler at the beginning, just I wasn't trying to be over aggressive, but I was just braking where I'd been braking all practice long. And then, just kind of fell back and fell into my rhythm. Tried to play the fuel strategy, tried to play, take care of the tires and be there at the end. And in the end, it worked out for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward for the rest of the season. You've got a week off next week, and then you're back on it in the next couple of weeks. What have you got coming up? How are you feeling about it?
I usually do better on the ovals than I do on the road courses. I'm somewhat handicapped, somewhat limited, so that's not unknown to most people. So I just kind of the same deal. Clean races, try to stay top 5, try to close the gap on Nate and the other guys that are at the top of the points. I had a bad season opener. Second race wasn't all that great either. So just try to get myself back on track. I went through the same thing last year. So yeah, just try to have a steady and consistent season this time around.
Those all sound like good shouts. It sounds like you've got your priorities in order. While we have you on air, have you got any shout outs, any thanks that you want to give?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely want to thank you, James and Frank, for being in the booth tonight. Sam Cooper Bennett for helping us with race control. I want to thank my team, FBR Motorsports, Neil, Larry, Jeff, Mikey Bourne. I want to thank guys like Darren Ganji that have come on board and, been a little bit of a boost for us. So, just want to mention Chris Walker. We still miss you out here, buddy. Keep getting better. And, that's it.
Cool. Thank you very much for joining us. Well done tonight.
Thank you, guys. Oh, yeah, one more quick shout out. Congratulations to Nate Siefker on yet another wonderful road course win. And congrats to Rick Ravon on his third place.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
So there is your second place finisher, Butch Davis, here this evening. Next up, we will go to our third place finisher, Rick Ravon, here in just a second as we bring Rick in. Rick, 3 races. You finished on all 3 spots of the podium here. A third place finish tonight at Monza.
Yeah, we did.
Talk us through your race. You did have an incident a little bit earlier on. I believe you ended up backwards at some point. recovered nicely, got up into third. What was your race like after that miscue?
It was horrible. It was like a nightmare, to be honest with you. I mean, we're right up there running with the leaders, and then I guess I just blew it. Hit the one corner wrong and spun it around, nosed it into the wall, and had to pit early, limped back to the pits. Fortunately, everybody got around. And, so we pitted, and then we're obviously off sequence. So I figured we're in the back, so we might as well pit again under that caution. So we really had our work cut out for us trying to make our way out, back up through the field. But we got to within about 7 or 8 seconds of the leaders, and things were looking pretty good, pretty promising. And then after the last pit stop, I spun again. So I'm happy that I got a podium. That's what I set out to get, was a podium. A little frustrating to know that we had a shot to do better. But I messed it up, but it is what it is. Got a podium, and I guess that's a first, a second, and a third. Hopefully next race won't be a fourth or worse.
I would certainly hope not. You had stayed on the red soft tires the entire race. We saw Nate take the black tires in that middle stint right after the in that first pit stop after the competition caution. Was there a thought at all to possibly go to the black tires to try to keep the stability in the back end of the car later in the run?
Not at all. Not at all. I wasn't even thinking about it. And neither one of my teammates, Scott Rambler and Chris Samard, I mean, we didn't even think about switching to the blacks. Rambler tested the blacks in practice, and he said, they're pretty much garbage. There's no advantage to running them, even for the longevity of them. They're just far too slow. You lose too much time over the course of the run. So we didn't even think about changing the black. So it was reds all the way.
All right. Next week we have off. We go to Gateway next week, 2 weeks from now. What are your thoughts getting back onto an oval, a difficult one at that, in St. Louis?
Oh, I love Gateway. Gateway's a great track. It's real challenging. But knowing the guys at SRE, they're going to come up with a setup that's really super competitive. Normally, you run there, and if the setup's not right, you're gonna the aero push is going to kill you from behind, and it gets to be kind of a boring race. But I know that these guys are going to come up with something that's racy and fun. So I'm looking forward to it, man. The ovals are my bread and butter. So we're just looking for hopefully another podium over there and just keep the momentum going.
All right. Anybody you want to thank before we let you get out of here?
Well, I want to thank my teammates, Scott Rambler and Chris Samard. It was so much fun working with them tonight, and welcome aboard the team. I think we make a great team. The chemistry is fantastic. Thanks to ESPN, of course, and you and James.
Yes.
Hello,
That's me.
James. You're a new name.
Yep.
Okay, so hello, James.
Hello, mate.
Just want to thank you guys up in the booth. I'll watch the race. I don't know, maybe sometime later or tomorrow. We'll see what James sounds like. I don't think I've ever seen him up in the booth before, but thanks ESPN, thanks to of course SRE, the guys that put this thing together, and all the drivers. I got to say something. I want to say something to the drivers, especially the guys who really made room and let me come through, knowing that I was a faster car. I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate it. I mean, they were just so gentlemanly. Nobody really tried to, block or something like that. They were just very, very, very gentlemanly. And I just want to say right now, I am just really, really grateful for that, because we were kind of on a tear and didn't want anything to get in our way. And, knowing that I was a quicker car, it was just very gracious of those guys to let me through. So I just want to say thank you so much. That really means a lot to me. Thank you. Oh, and last but not least, the Lord Jesus, of course. Thank you, Lord, for giving me life.
All right, so there is your third place finisher, Rick Ravon. First 3 races, he's covered all 3 steps of the podium. Rick, congratulations, bud.
Thank you very much. God bless you, Frank and James.
You as well.
Thank you.
User was moved out of your
All right,
channel.
so that will conclude the interview portion of tonight's race. And James, first time up at the booth for Sim Racers, first time up at the booth with us, first time up at the booth with Sim Racers Edge. It picked a great night for it. We got a hell of a show tonight.
Yeah, I must say, I was super impressed with the racing that we saw tonight. I've got to say as well, I've really enjoyed sitting up in the booth with you. It's been worth it just for that.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. As we are going to go to the results now. for tonight's race. Nate Siefker, Butch Davis, Rick Ravon, your top three. We've heard from all of them. Chris Samard and Jeff Hollingsworth round out the top five. Jeffrey Roulette, Jeffrey Bogan, Carl Burke, Scott Rambler, and Brett Beasley make up the top 10 positions.
So they're followed by Charles Woods in 11th place, Tim Bates in 12th, Bentley Glazer is P13, Kevin O'Brien is P14, Paul Crumry comes in P15, Dan Brassington is P16, Tyler Bloom in 17th, Tony Phillips 18th, Michael Grandy in 19th, Ronnie Osmer P20, Darren Ganji P21, Johnny Antonucci in P22, Jason Duckworth P23, and Bob Lacarava in P24.
So that will be the final results here for tonight. Unfortunately, we don't have the graphics set up, but the points are up and ready to go after tonight's race. Nate Siefker has retaken the points lead after tonight. He came in 11 points down. He leaves 4 points up. Chris Samard jumps up into third place in points. Butch Davis up to fourth in points. Bentley Glazer falls from third to fifth. Roulette and Carl Burke both drop back one spot. Jeff Hollingsworth with a big gain up 8. The biggest gainer in points, Jeffrey Bogan, up 9 positions up to 13th in the standings with his finish tonight. And Ron Hollifield, the biggest loser in points this week, down 10 spots. He did not participate in the race here this evening. So with that, as you see, coming up on ESPN here for the remainder of this week, the USRA Cup Series will be at Indianapolis tomorrow night at 7:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself and Jonathan Leach will be in the booth for that. Circle B Diecast Super Speedway Series will be at Talladega on Friday night in the ARCA cars. The E-Formula 3.5 Series is back in action this week, this Saturday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time from Imola, and a double dip on Sunday this week with the Chris Cup Sim Racing Series from the Daytona Road Course at 6:50 p.m. Eastern Time, and the nightcap at 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time will be the Major Series American Sportsman division, the 1987 Daytona 500, a full-length Daytona 500 in the 1987 cars. Should be a heck of a lot of fun coming up this Sunday night. So for my new broadcast partner, James Whitehouse, thank you very much for joining us here tonight from Monza. So let me bring you out the way I brought you in. Grazie per essere, there it was. I was talking.
At least you nailed it on the way in.
I was telling him. I said I've been practicing this. I've been practicing it. I'm going to screw it up when the red light comes on. That's just how it works. So you know what? I'm not going to try it again. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time for Sim Racer's Edge at Gateway, and tomorrow night for the USRA Cup Series. A good night, everybody.